Why don't most people become wealthy? In this episode, I'm going to share with you the missing structure between the strivers and the thrivers. The strivers, 95% of the population of the United States. The thrivers, the top 5%, they move from captivity to freedom. At the end, you're going to be blown away with what you can do to be part of the top 5%. I'm Doug Andrew, and I've had a national radio show for north of 11 years now. I've done a lot of TV and education, and I've been blessed to be able to write 11 books so far. We had one become a New York Times Wall Street Journal #1 bestseller. And so I get this question a lot. Golly, why don't most people become wealthy? In fact, I've written an article about this that was published in many newspapers. I also have put it in many business magazines. And so I'm going to share with you from this article sort of a missing structure. The masses, especially in the wealthiest country in the world, the United States, still 95% of Americans are down here more or less in captivity. Retirement after working 40 years, don't even have an income approaching $100,000 a year. They're sort of in financial captivity and other types of things that affect even their life expectancy. Only the top 5% arrive at what I call the land of peace and abundance. This is where they thrive, and it's not just about money, but they don't have to worry about money because they can have $1 million a year, generating $100,000 a year into perpetuity, or they could have $1 million a year. I've been blessed to meet and rub shoulders with several billionaires, and some of these incredible people I get to meet with in mastermind groups maybe only are worth $500 million, shucky darn. But sometimes they're not happy if they just have the money. It's the land of peace and abundance where they have tremendous freedom. So there's a missing structure. And what I want to do is help you understand what is that missing structure between those who are striving and those who are arriving and then thriving. Let's talk about why the strivers are sort of in captivity. Many people, they go to school to learn how to go out and earn a living, how to make money, but they're rarely taught what to do with that money so that their money is earning more than they do by age 32. When we wrote the book, my two sons and I, Millionaire by 30, because my two sons, starting with nothing, had net worths of $1.6 million by the time they were 26 and 28 years old. My publisher, Warner Business Books at the time, did research and found that most college graduates, 10 years after graduating, only had a net worth of $15,000. So that's pretty pathetic. A lot of times people have still 10, 20, 30 years later, after going out and earning money, too much month left at the end of their money. They're always consuming. In fact, if they borrow money, they usually borrow to consume rather than conserve. The top 5%, those who have financial freedom and also all kinds of other freedoms, their money is earning more than they are. They borrow to conserve, not to consume. What's the missing structure? The mega wealthy thrivers, I was just visiting with a billionaire the other day, and because interest rates are at a all-time low at the time of this recording, he said, I can't afford not to borrow money. Does he need the money? No, but he could borrow $400 million, he said, at 3% interest, and it's tax deductible, so that's a net cost of 2. And he knows where he can put that $400 million and earn predictably 6, 8, 10%. How much more is 8% than a net of 2%? 400%. It's 4 times. Every million that he pays $20,000 a year of interest on, he makes $80,000 a year of interest on, and he knows where to earn $80,000 tax-free because he's read my books. So there's a difference between those who just go out and earn money and sock away 2 or 3 or 4%, maybe 6% of their income in the company's 401k, and maybe the company matches. But if you want to be wealthy and be able to not outlive your money, have enough in your retirement nest egg, you need to be socking away more like 20% of your income. The billionaire told me the way he became a billionaire is he always saved 50% of his income. He just learned to live on only 50% of his income. By age 35 or 36, he had $1 billion net worth. Really, he admitted when you own too many things, they begin to own you. And so in his estimation, if you have between $5 to $10 million, you're financially independent. So let's just use that as the bar. I'm going to share with you what this missing structure is. If you want to have $5 million or $10 million by the time you're ready to lay back and not work unless you want to. For years, I've helped many thousands of people, especially in America, go through what I call a true wealth transformer process. This is the transformation. And I designed this years ago. It's an 8-step process to move from that captivity mode into freedom, financial freedom, to not have to worry about money the rest of your life. But it usually takes a process. And this process, to go through it, normally would take at least 4 years and 1 day with one of my favorite financial instruments to grandfather yourself in the Internal Revenue Code to be able to have what I call a family bank, to be able to have, for every $1 million, be able to generate 8 to 10% payout or cash flow. So 10% is easy math. So that'd be 100,000. That every million will generate 100,000 a year of tax-free cash flow into perpetuity. But it takes a good, about 5 years in order to do that. A lot of people don't have the patience to go through this process. We wrap our fingers in front of a microwave because it's taking too long to heat up our lunch. We want instant gratification, and so people sometimes spend more time planning their summer vacations or a weekend jeeping than they do in planning their whole financial future. So the key is this. You want to go through a very predictable, proven process. I've used this process for years, and to be honest with you, 85% of this successful result is determined in the first 15% of the process. I learned that from Dr. Edwards Deming, who's the total quality management engineer that transformed Japan to the quality they put out today. Compared to when I was a kid, anything made in Japan was junk or cheap. And he taught me that the first 15% of the process is the key. And this one, that's the enlightenment experience. It's getting it. So I'm going to show you how you can get it. So what are the key takeaways? First, you don't want to be part of the 95% that just follow the herd and put money in the company's 401k and only save 6% of your income and borrow to consume. Many times, strivers make the mistake of thinking the best way to pay off their house is by sending extra principal payments to the mortgage company. You can get out of debt 2.5 or 3 years faster by not doing it that way. That's what's motivated me to write books. If you want to be part of the top 5%, to have financial freedom, you need to go through that 8-step process. And the beginning is the enlightenment, which is studying, learning, and taking ownership of your financial future. I've written 11 books. This is my most recent one, and I would love to give you a free copy of this book. This could be a manual. I've received so many thank yous, and we've gone into our 6th printing of this book. I've been interviewed on different programs, and as soon as I mention this, these fly off our warehouse shelves. So it's called The Laser Fund, and it's actually 2 books in one. This side of the book is comprised of about 200 pages, 14 chapters, a lot of charts, graphs, and explanations at 3 levels of depth to help you understand how to go through that process and become a thriver. Now, if you're not a numbers person, you learn more by stories. That's why I wrote a 2nd book. And so you just flip this book over and you read this one, this direction. And this is comprised of about 100 pages, 12 chapters with 62 actual client stories of how people have done this. This is for the right brain people. This one's for the left brain people. And if you want to use your whole brain, read both, okay? Click down here, go to laserfund.com. You can get a copy of this for free. You just cover a nominal $5.95 shipping and handling, and I'm gonna send one right out to you, and you can begin to make your transformation.